Alright, my apologies for leaving it halfway through on that last video. Unfortunately, I had a busy schedule that day, but let's finish it up. So we want to do this for a cylinder. So we're going to pop in cylinder here. And now we want to do a plane parallel to the vertical axis. So vertical means up and down. If it wants it parallel, it wants it the same way. All right, so we're going to have to change the angle of this so it's 90 degrees. And when we do that, we see we get this rectangle for a cross section. That makes sense because if you looked at this straight on, it would look like a rectangle. You wouldn't be able to see the curves or anything. For this one, we're just going to write rectangle. All right, for the next one, we want it parallel to a circular base. And I feel it's weird that they word it that way because it's like, we want it parallel to the circle. Well, obviously, you're going to get a circle. Like, I feel like by saying that, they're like, we're giving you the answer, hint, hint. Plane making an angle with the vertical axis without passing through the base. So basically what they're saying is they want an angle, but they don't want to see how this is cutting the bottom or the top. They don't want that to happen. So you're going to have to move this up a little bit. Oh, that's rotating. We're going to move it up. And this is an angle. However, it's not cutting through the base. So this creates this oval shape. So I'm just going to say oval. It's technically called an ellipses, but I think Edmentum's uh, operating under you not knowing that. Making an angle with the vertical axis passing through the base and the top surface. So the top base as well. So we're going to have to change this angle. And we see that it's an oval with flat sides. I don't know why they continue showing the curve, probably how they program it, but it's this flat side with these curved sides right here. All right, so oval with flat edges. And then making an angle through either the base but not both. So either of the bases. So I'm just going to angle it. Oh my gosh. I'm going to have to move this down. There we go. So we just see an oval with only one flat edge, I guess. Oval with one flat edge. So let me submit that. Let's see how similar our answers are. Okay, so we get curved lines. Oh, I guess that makes sense. Curved lines because and an edge connecting them. And edges connecting them. A cutoff section of an oval with a loose boundary. So again, you can do your definitions similar to this. Which cross section do you find the most surprising and why? The curved lines connected by straight lines. And why? I find this surprising because I do not understand why we did it. It doesn't serve much of a purpose as the other ones. They're like, oh, a rectangle, oh, a circle, or an oval. I don't know why we're doing these. That's why I find it surprising. Not so much that the shape is surprising, so much that we had to do it, I find surprising. Plane parallel to the base. Oh, and we're doing this for a pyramid. So again, we're going to go back over here, and now we're going to do it for a pyramid. Does it say how the base is? Go to the pyramid. Set the number of lateral faces to 6. So if we go here, there should be a number of lateral faces. We want this to be 6. So right now it's is that 6? The easiest way for me to tell, and this is spoiler alert for later, is to look at this. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep, the hexagon. So yeah, parallel to the base. Oh, there we go. Hexagon. I guess it wasn't too much of a spoiler. It was coming up right away. Um, Plane passing through exactly 2 sides and the base. Okay, so we want it through only 2 sides. So let me angle this. That's going through 3, so I'm going to want to rotate this. Let me move this down a little. Angle, I don't know if angling it. There we go. If we do that, we see that it's a triangle, which makes sense because, well, if it has 3 sides, it's a triangle. So I'm just going to say triangle here. Passing through exactly 3 sides and the base. Oh boy. So we had that earlier. Let me see if I can get it again. Let me rotate this a little. Oh, not move it. I want it to rotate it. And a few times I actually want to rotate it. If we look here, we get, oh, some type of, not exactly a trapezoid based on the angle. And unfortunately, it's not specific. I think they wanted us to get some type of trapezoid. Um, but because they're not specifying the angle, and honestly, it would be really hard to specify the angle, I would say quadrilateral, meaning a 4-sided polygon, almost a trapezoid. And I have a feeling they're gonna put the answer as a trapezoid. But a trapezoid is supposed to have 2 parallel sides. These are not parallel. You can tell if I continued them, they would touch each other at some point in time. So they're not parallel. So it's not technically a trapezoid. Almost. Um, Plane perpendicular to the base um, around the vertical axis. Okay, so we want this perpendicular. So we want the angle. Um, This to be 90 degrees. Let me see if I can do that somehow. I think that's 90 degrees. Let me rotate above Z. Yep. So this looks like an isosceles triangle because both the sides are congruent. So this one I will say is isosceles because of the fact that we know this side is equal to that side because this is right uh, a right pyramid. So let's see how we did. So, okay, they did just want quadrilateral. I was getting a little too picky there. So a hexagon, a triangle, a quadrilateral, and this. And I find these interesting because it's like, well, obviously this and this would be there. I did not find any of them surprising since the question questions said how many sides were involved. So me personally, I didn't think it was surprising because it's like you want the base and 2 sides, a 3-sided shape. That's a triangle. You want the base and 3 sides. So it's like, well, 1 plus 3, that's 4. That's quadrilateral. So, hmm, honestly, like I feel the way they phrased it could have been a little better, but let's carry on. To increase the number of lateral faces, replacing them. What do you notice about the general shape of the cross sections? Increasing the number of faces. So if we increase these, they don't, they shouldn't change because of how the questions are added. What do you notice about the general shape of the cross sections? So, I mean, if you look at this, it tweaks a little bit, Like for example, the one with the odd number of shapes, it's no longer isosceles. Even it is an isosceles, but odd just doesn't work out that way. And the other one shouldn't change either. So I'm just gonna write odd-sided bases no longer make the perpendicular triangle isosceles since the questions are since the questions tell us how many sides there are. The shapes are the same. One thing though is because of how the angles are, so let's give me a second here. Let me move this down. Let me move this slice down. It is a little harder to do these shapes. Like you'll find that the angles are a lot more wider on the top and a lot more smaller on the bottom. Are the same with changes to the, I'm going to call it base angles being um, smaller and the top angles being larger. So the it does affect the figure we get, but it doesn't affect like the actual shape. It's still a quadrilateral. It's still a hexagon. It's still that. Um, so it does change it a little bit, but it doesn't change the type of shape that is. Note all types of shapes. So we're going to be working on a prism. So let's go to prism, and I believe this one, yeah, we're going to have to specify how many sides we're doing. So looking at the prism, you can see we're probably going to get a rectangle somewhere there. So parallel to the vertical axis. Oh, well, it wasn't that much of a spoiler because that's a rectangle. I also didn't write down how many sections they wanted. No, section to 5. Okay, so I want this set to 5. Right. Oh, it's actually set at 5. Perfect. That works out. So obviously it's not going to change this. Rectangle. Now we want it parallel to the base. So we're going to rotate this, make it parallel to the base. We see, give me a second, let me move it up, make it a little more parallel. There we go. We see that's a pentagon. So we're just going to say pentagon. Penta meaning 5. Uh, make an angle vertical passing through the base or the top surface. So that or means we're not doing both. So let me rotate this. And we see, oh boy, it could be a number of things it looks like. Let me zoom out real quick. Rotating that angle. I'm gonna say that it is 1, 2, 3, 4. So it looks like it's some kind of quadrilateral. So I'm just gonna put quadrilateral because we're missing out on a couple sides by doing it at that angle, crossing through the base. Shape through both sides. So now we want it through both. So if we do that, let me change this angle. I want it through both, so I'm going to have to move it and change the angle a little bit. So it is going through there. Vertical is a quadrilateral. It's a rectangle. If I do it at a little bit of an angle, I see I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sides. I'm just gonna say irregular pentagon. I'm not sure what it means by this, so your answers may vary. But I'm putting irregular pentagon because I do see one where it has 4 sides or 5 sides. It's just not regular. Other planes and various angles. I'm just gonna say different shapes because you've seen it could go anywhere from a four-sided shape all the way up until a five-sided shape. So um, either quad. Oh, actually, there is one that we haven't covered, and it's a little hard to do, but we'll get there. Let me see if I can do it here. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to move the angle, move the slice closer to the corner. We can get a triangle. It just takes a little bit of effort. So shapes from, and I remembered that from the problem that we did. So shapes from triangle to pentagon. So let's see what they put for their answers. Pentagon, okay, so there are various shapes. And apparently that bottom one did have multiple answers it could have been. Which one of these shapes are the most surprising? At this point, I don't think any of them were really that surprising. Um, yeah, for the most part, these weren't these. Well, I'll say at this point, the shapes are no longer surprising due to all the practice. So because of the fact that we've been practicing it for like so much, it doesn't feel, at least to me, it might still, there might be some shapes that are still strange. Um, but for the most part, it feels like we're starting to get a good feel for it. So I'm going to give myself a 4. It was difficult to understand the directions, but at the end, I think I got a feel for it. So remember to always express why you think you got this. To me, a grade doesn't mean anything if you don't express what you think you got. All right, so let's go on here. All right, so what's the shape going to be? Well, this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's a pentagon at the bottom. So it should be a pentagon on the top. It's not being cut by anything. So I'm going to say pentagon. So moving on to here, we see that it is involving 2 sides and the base. So that totals 3 sides. So that should be a triangle. So now we're going to be talking about rotating the shapes of the axes. Trying to see. Okay, so this hopefully shouldn't take too long. So let's go here. Oh, this is a, I hate to do this, but um, this does take some time to understand, so I want to give it the full respect it deserves. So it looks like this is going to be a 3-part video series for this, and I think when I went back to look at the YouTube videos, I realized that I totally skipped using volume. I went through explaining volume, but I don't believe I ever made a series for using volume. Let me double check the playlist. Um, Geometry B playlist. Let me put my name on it. I don't know why the playlist isn't showing up. There should be a playlist. Well, I'll go back to doing that. It's very strange that's not giving me my playlist. But I do believe I did miss module 2 and I labeled this module 2, so you'll see the name change in the next video. But for now, we're gonna make this a 3-part series.